You may be too poor to raise venture capital. Yes, you heard that right. There's an interesting article going around written by Steph Nasser of openvc that venture capital is not poor friendly. What does he mean? He means those that are already successful and wealthy are much more likely to raise venture capital and, of course, succeed as a result of that and even build more wealth. So what does that mean for someone that doesn't have that wealth? Well, it means tough luck. You're probably not going to raise money from VCs and you may be stuck being poor. So is Steph right? Is he wrong? Is he half right? We'll get into it in this video. My name is Matan Hazanov. I've been investing in venture capital for over 10 years. I've been involved in over 30 startups, deployed tens of millions of dollars in VC money, and have helped companies get to 9-figure valuations. So why did this article rub people the wrong way, as you can see by these comments? Well, it seems somewhat obvious. A lot of people see building a successful startup as a path towards tremendous prosperity, as you can see by some of these surveys over here. And they're right. Building a startup and being successful doing that can build a tremendous amount of wealth, almost more wealth than any other path one can go down in terms of time and effort and scale, in terms of how quickly you can scale a business of this nature. As you can see, here are some of the most successful people in human history, and they got there by building a startup, raising venture capital, and then getting a crazy exit down the road. And if you tell someone that that path is closed off to them because they didn't inherit a bunch of money or don't have millions of dollars sitting in the bank or don't have a spouse that makes a lot of money, well, that feels very limiting. Why should that path be closed off to them just because of circumstance? But we also know that those are the facts. The data actually shows that people that live comfortably or have enough money to live comfortably, meaning they're not struggling to pay the bills, or they have a tremendous amount of wealth already, or they're repeat founders, meaning they've exited a business before and this is their second, third, or fourth time going at building a startup, they tend to be the ones that are building the unicorns that VCs want to invest in, as you can see from the data. So why is that the case? Why does it seem to be that VCs are focusing on people that are already successful financially to provide funding for and ignoring some other founders that may be deserving but don't have the same amount of wealth? Why is VC, in other words, not poor friendly? Well, Steph makes a few good points in this regard. The first is that VCs don't fund the riskiest part in building a business, which is the earliest stages, building your MVP, getting some early traction, incorporation, building software, all that stuff. That is on you. Sometimes you can get government funding, angel investors, all that stuff. But a VC is not going to provide you funding to de-risk that part of building a business. For that, you as a founder, as an entrepreneur, have to find a solution to that. And those with money already, or those with a storied career, or with savings, or with a deep network, they can build an MVP, they can find the right angel investors, they have the right access to government resources, where they can get their business to a stage where a VC is more likely to invest in them. The second point Steph makes, and it's a great point as well, is that someone that's already successful financially is usually someone well into their career, or inherited, of course, but a lot of times it's people that have had a long career, they built up a nest egg, and they have an entrenched network of people that they can go to for funding, or they can go to recruit amazing talent, right? This built-in network you have as a result of being successful in something, as opposed to being someone right out of school, is much more likely to yield a type of business that VCs would fund, or get you to a point of building traction or a track record, and a VC will fund that. And those people tend to be more financially successful. That is more of a correlation, not causation, but it is an important point that those that have successful careers are much more likely to raise venture capital. That's very rational, and anyone who's deploying capital would think along those same lines. And the third reason that Steph gives, and this is a bit less intuitive, is that founders that don't have wealth are taking substantially more risk, which makes it much more difficult to invest in them. Think about it like this. Imagine you have no savings, you have a family, right? And you want to go and start this business. It's high risk. You can't take a salary for a very long time. If there's any hiccup in your business, you're done. Not only are you done, but you have no way to support yourself, right? VCs don't want to get into that kind of situation if they can avoid it. If all else being equal, they want to deal with someone who's already financially stable and successful so that their runway is much longer, their personal runway, not just their business runway, right? They can tolerate many more hiccups along the road. They can deal with not having a salary for longer periods of time if that's what's necessary. They can invest their own money when things get tough. They can scale back their salary. They can figure out ways to keep the business going. It's just a much less riskier proposition when you're dealing with someone who is financially successful. The benefits of that could be mitigated by a lack of motivation, but you can select for people that are motivated and wealthy too. And Steph brings interesting data points to back up his proposition. For example, you can see that most successful startups are bootstrapped more than they're funded, right? Bootstrap founders are usually putting money in themselves, or at least creating businesses that generate enough inertia and momentum that they're not desperate for venture capital, and they're only taking in venture capital to fuel their growth. And the other data point is that most founders that have successfully built a unicorn startup are those that are repeat founders. So those that have exited a business before, and those exits usually generate maybe not huge outcomes, but enough of a significant outcome that it builds some wealth for the founder so that they can build the next startup in a much more comfortable way. So what are my thoughts? The obvious conclusion from this is that venture capital becomes very exclusionary. There's a certain amount of people that have wealth, and if you don't have wealth or can live comfortably or went to the right MBA program or know the right people, go to the right country clubs or institutions, then you're out of luck. And that is true to a certain extent. If you're not in the right networks, it's going to be much harder to raise money. VCs have a responsibility and obligation to their investors to find the best risk-adjusted returns, but founders need to understand this. The job of a VC is to generate crazy good returns for their investors while taking the lowest risk possible. Their job is not to be social engineers. And that means a VC is not going to take extra risk by going and investing in founders that are riskier. So I largely agree with the premise and conclusion that Steph writes in his article. Venture capital is not poor friendly. It's much harder to raise money. You're a much riskier proposition to a venture capital investor. It's going to be much harder for you to develop the traction or the track record that a VC needs to see. But it's not all doom and gloom. There are paths towards getting the traction or track record. You can go to the right schools, which there's a lot of scholarship programs out there. Governments are pouring money into early stage companies through research grants in Canada and the US. There's plenty of programs. Of course, you can spend the time working at another startup developing your network, and it will take you 10, 15, 20 years maybe to build that network before you're ready to go out there and raise money. A lot of successful founders, what they do is that they join an early stage startup, they become one of the first 10 employees, and if that startup is successful, they leverage those connections, that experience, and then they start a business themselves. And that's a pathway for many people. What I see sometimes is that founders aren't realistic about what they need to do before they go out and raise. You have to be very strategic. You have to know the mindset of the VC. You have to understand that they're not there to take risks that should be borne by you, the founder. And so it may seem harsh, but the conclusion is that venture capital is not poor friendly. And there are many ways to mitigate these risks and to make yourself much more desirable as a investee for VCs. And I could talk that in a bunch of my videos. Steph Nasser on openvc has great blogs and articles talking about the best ways to position yourself. In fact, he has a whole platform that helps you raise money. This is not a sponsored video by any means, but you will get a discount if you use my code MATAN20, MATAN20 on openvc.com. Check it out. The link will be down below where you can check it out. And that platform has great resources on how to build a great pitch deck. You can reach out to investors directly. I've sent many of the startups I work with to check it out. I think it's a great platform. I encourage everyone to at least check it out. I think they have a free version as well. If you send me a message on LinkedIn and you sign up using my code, I'll give you back my affiliate fee. I'm not doing this for an affiliate fee. I don't really care about that. I just think it's a great platform. So in conclusion, don't be despondent. there is hope for those who are also poor. It's just going to be much harder. But I think with grit, with perseverance, with determination, by doing the right things today, meaning you're going to develop that traction or track record in any way you can, which is possible to do with very little money, you can still have a shot at raising money from VCs and build that amazing, world-changing, successful unicorn startup that will not only make the world a better place, of course, because that's why we do it, but also make you tremendously wealthy in the process. So that's it for today. Thank you for listening to my channel. My name is Matan Azanov. If you like what you heard today, leave me a like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about this video, and I'll see you in the next one.